Hi, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to help you assess what it is in your hair that you don't like so you can fix it. So in today's video, I'm going to help you troubleshoot what's wrong with your hair and how to fix it so that you have hair that you absolutely love. I do want to stress this video is not about trends. It's really about assessing how this hair is going to look good on you and only you. Okay, I'm going to start with color. Obviously, I've done a lot of videos on color on my channel and the importance of having the right color for you. I feel like in the recent months, there's also been a lot of talk about finding your color season. And I do feel like people at this point have a good understanding on why the right color to suit your skin tone is important. So there are countless ways online to figure out your color season. I have made videos on this as well. So the first step is to make sure that you do have a color that suits your coloring and your contrast. One thing that I want to add here too is oftentimes when we hear these rules, we think, oh, there's a specific color. It's another thing that comes up in consults all the time. And there is a range that works for you within your coloring. So you're not gonna find one color that really works for you and that's the only thing that works. But while we're on color, I think one thing that often gets overlooked, and this is something I see it every day in hair when I'm just out and about, and that is whether your color suits your cut. And yes, it has to go that way. You never get a cut to support the color, but you should always have color that supports your cut. Now, I know in some salons you have experts in each field, like you'll see someone that cuts your hair and you'll see someone else that colors your hair. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this, and technically this actually means that you're getting someone that's really an expert in each field. So you're kind of getting the best of the best in each category, which is great. Now the issue is if you get your color first and then your cut later. Now when I do both in the salon, I always color first and then cut. But I have the cut already in mind, so I'm coloring according to that. If you're seeing a colorist and a stylist separately, it is kind of your job to kind of communicate if you are changing the cut. If your idea is to just trim up what you have and nothing is changing, obviously the colorist can go off of the cut you already have. But if you're looking to change up the cut, you actually need to communicate that to the colorist. And I'll explain the biggest mistake I see when color does not match a cut. And that is, say you have a disconnecting layer. Even if I have some layering, the layering starts here, but I always have a disconnected piece. Just something I always like to have in my hair. But if the end of this piece does not match this first face framing layer, it looks so off, and it can be one thing that just gets overlooked because you can look at each piece and the color looks fine, this piece looks fine, but as a whole, it doesn't look good. I see it all the time with layering kind of in the back. If you have a partial highlight and your highlights stop where your shortest essentially layer ends, and then you have dark underneath, again, there's no cohesion. From root to end, your hair should be telling a color story, even if you have a root smudge or your roots are a little bit darker. So the color story you're telling that way is that it's soft, it's natural, it's typical for the ends to be lighter than the roots. So the eye doesn't see that as a disconnect or something is off. But if there's a cutoff in color and a piece of the hair is darker underneath, the eye automatically sees that as a disconnect, like it's not really correct. You want it to be cohesive and really blend in the back, of course, but around the face, it's even less forgiving. And this is kind of where I've realized that sometimes it's as a whole, it looks darker than they want it to look. And that's because there's that one little outlier, that one little piece of hair that's kind of dictating how light your lightest pieces should be. And the ends of your longest piece need to match that. So a good rule of thumb is look at all the ends of your hair. Do they pretty much, if you brought them all up to the same length, are they pretty much in the same color family? Because they should. Your color is probably going to be more memorable than your cut unless you have a very striking or unique or edgy cut. I feel like we always talk about self-expression more so with color, but I think with color, because you do have to stick to a palette that suits you, I feel like color in a way is a little bit more predetermined, even though there's many colors that still suit you. You still have a range to choose from. But I do feel like with your cut, there's just so much more freedom there to express yourself. And I feel like old kind of information would be like, you have this cut to enhance this or to hide this. Whereas I think we're kind of in a place more of embracing uniqueness. The rules for cuts and shapes of your hair, I feel, have evolved more to sometimes almost exaggerate a unique feature rather than hide it. And so I do think if you want to be expressive with your hair, have a color that really suits you, and then play around and be daring with your cut. You know, when you see hair that's just so out there and it's just like, ooh, it's too wild. But then on other people, you'll see a cut that's really edgy and you might even think for yourself, that's like not me, or I can't pull that off, but it looks so, so good on that person. And I would say at least 9 out of 10 times, it's because the color suits that client, but the cut is kind of like more wild or like breaking the rules. And next time you see this, look out for this, and I'm almost positive you're going to start seeing this pattern. With that being said, another thing to consider when choosing a cut or shape for your hair is, does this cut suit A, who you are, but B, your lifestyle? I would see this all the time in the salon where people would get a cut that supports either the weekend version of them or the version of themselves that they aspire to be. I'm so guilty of this when it comes to clothing. Basically, like if I had a presentation tomorrow or I had a like work event, I would have easily like 5 outfits that I could put together and like put in a suitcase and leave tomorrow. But when it comes to my everyday, my dropping off my kid at preschool, like those kind of outfits, like yoga pants, like I always hear women say, like, I have over 20 pairs. I think I have 3 pairs of yoga pants. Like it doesn't excite me to buy that type of clothing, even though that's what I'm most in. And I should, in fact, actually have more of those pieces that I'm wearing daily. So with that being said, same thing for your hair. If you're wearing your hair up 99% of the time and then once a month you let your hair down and give yourself a blowout, sure, it's nice to have that hair that supports that style, but wouldn't it be better to have a cut that actually supports you the other 99% of your life? And again, sometimes this is scary. And again, like for myself, I think sometimes in my mind, I am still the 27-year-old, like hustling in her first salon in San Francisco. And sometimes I have to remind myself, like, I'm a mom. I run 2 different businesses. Like, my life is just so different. And most of the time I am taking a meeting in workout clothes. That's the reality of my life. But my wardrobe would tell you otherwise. So to me, it seems so clear to do that with hair, not so clear with clothing. And again, this shouldn't be in a way to like shame that you don't have like the right hair or that your life is not how you want it to be. All I want is for you to have hair that like suits and supports you most days of your life. So sometimes maybe adjusting the cut or the color to how are you actually wearing your hair on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, and have something that really supports that. I mean, if it brings you joy to blow it out once a month and to have that long hair, obviously do what makes you feel good. But I think this is something that we don't often question. It's just kind of a default. But what if you could love your hair on a Monday morning? Okay, next category is the condition of your hair. And not to say that people don't think about this, because I actually feel, again, in the direction we're going, people are very hair care conscious, and gone are the days where we would just bleach and re-bleach and like tone with a gray and then continue bleaching. I do think we're just better with our hair. We have also better products to take care of our hair. But I think one thing that I would always suggest, even as a colorist, is the condition of your hair is more important than the color of your hair. Meaning, if you're like really, really working towards a specific color that you want and your hair is just not budging color-wise, you're still not where you want to be, maybe as light as you want to be, but your hair is struggling, I would always listen to the condition of the hair and nurture it before you keep going, if that makes sense. And if anything, maybe I'm gonna go a shade or 2 darker. Going a shade or 2 darker always just sounds scary to someone who is lightening, but I promise you, if you get your hair in a shade or two darker, but in the right tone, you'll be so much happier. Your hair will look so much shinier. And I think overall, you'll just be happier with your hair. One thing I don't suggest, and I see this all the time, is clients are looking to go lighter, lighter, lighter. Their hair gets kind of fatigued. They get kind of overwhelmed, and then they go back to square one, back to their either natural dark hair color or sometimes something even darker. I think that's kind of, in a way, is more discouraging, and all you're training your mind to think is that you can't get there. And sometimes you're like 80 to 90% there. So why not tone close to where you are lifted to, and maybe in 2-3 months, try again when your hair is a little bit healthier, rather than going back to dark and then kind of having to start the process all over. I see this pattern happen all the time. And again, it's not wrong. Do what makes you feel good. But I oftentimes see clients spend time, spend effort, money to get so close to their goal, and going back to square one. I mean, again, if that's the color that you want, that's fine. But when you do it out of maybe you're desperate with your hair, that's where I don't want you to be. And I want you to love your hair at every stage. All right. The last category I'm going to be talking about is your roots. And this is a great exercise to do if you are feeling like, I hate my color. The next time I go into the salon, I'm completely changing it up. Nothing about this color is good. I would get this all the time. Sometimes from my clients, sometimes from a brand new client. And oftentimes I'd be like, what do you not like about it? And they're like, I just want brighter, or I'm so over chasing the brass. I just want to go darker, whatever it was. Oftentimes if I covered the roots, or sometimes less than 10% of the hair, if I covered that, and I would ask, what do you still not like about your hair? And oftentimes I'd be like, oh, that looks okay. And again, as a stylist, when we hear, I want to go brighter, as a stylist or as a colorist, you so want to deliver. And we're like, let's get you, blonde and glowing to the moon. Like, I want to get you exactly where you want to be. But oftentimes I think when you have roots that you don't like, or that are not suiting the rest of your color, it is so easy to hate your hair color. And I've done this to a few of my clients. Sometimes even before big events, I would have clients that are like, I know I'm in for a root touch-up, but I really need to change. I have a wedding this weekend, or I have whatever it is, and I need my hair to look amazing. And oftentimes I would suggest, let's just touch up your roots, give you like a tone refresh on your highlights or your balayage, and let's do a treatment, and let's get your hair as glossy as possible. And they'd be like, that's not what I'm here for. Like, I want like a big wowing. Anytime that I did that, the client would always be happy. So that has taught me too that sometimes when we crave lighter or big change, sometimes you're only unhappy with 10% of your hair and not the whole thing. And this is such a good life lesson too in life. It's kind of like when you have not even a bad day, but a bad portion of the day. You're like, my day is awful. This week has been terrible. And really, it's been one piece of your day. And there are so many things that I feel like are good life lessons that I've learned through hair. And I've actually kind of been writing them down and have been wanting to do a video on this. But I keep telling myself this is a very Sylvia-ism and something that maybe you guys are not interested in. If you are, please leave me, I don't know, a brown heart emoji below if you would like to see that. I know that would probably be very niche, but take your roots out of the equation. See if you still don't like your hair and kind of move from there. Because sometimes it's that little tiny thing that just seems like it's so much bigger than it is, and then you fix it and everything else kind of falls into place. So I hope I've given you some good points to think about that will help you assess what it is about your hair that you actually want to change. Maybe it's a lot less than you thought you had to change. At least that was the goal of this video. And although we do seek professionals to help us with our color and so on in the salon and in other aspects of our life, I think you coming in with a much clearer understanding of what it is that you want what it is that you don't want, you're always that much closer to getting what you want. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. I've missed you. It feels so good to be back, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.